at this point, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. You can see some information there, Akira Jones. He has well over a decade of experience in the architectural, engineering, construction industry. He leads H.H. Angus's digital services team, which specializes in BIM processes and software, 3D scanning and scan to BIM, IoT, digital twinning, and Amazon Web Services cloud consulting. He focuses largely on the integration of technology and the built environment to deliver better business outcomes and performance, making him very well suited to head off today's event. So without further ado, here's Akira.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Peter, and thanks for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. It is really great to be here today, and I'm very excited to be introducing the topic of smart buildings. It is something that I am very passionate about. And a quick thank you to Canadian Consulting Engineers for giving me this opportunity. But like I said, I'm very excited to get into this afternoon and hear what everyone has to say. So a brief introduction, again, who am I? Who is Akira Jones? Just to reiterate what Peter was saying, I'm a mechanical engineer, a principal, and the director of digital services at H.H. Angus. I've been at H.H. Angus since 2012, and I have a background in project engineering in the healthcare and the commercial sector, as well as a lot of in-depth knowledge in BIM and BIM processes. And there's a specific reason why I mentioned this. For those of you who are unfamiliar, H.H. Angus is an engineering consulting firm that does mechanical, electrical building systems design for healthcare, commercial, industrial, data center, and transit. And we also provide consulting engineering services specializing in information communications and automation technology, or ICAT, as well as digital strategy for a variety of different sectors. So we're all here to talk about smart buildings today. So maybe a little bit about how I got into smart buildings. And I have to say, it all started from BIM. I think these things are inextricably linked. And I'll touch on that a little bit later in my discussion, but BIM is where it all started. Through a lot of discussions we had with clients regarding BIM, often the topic of smart buildings would come up. And so I'd say this is around 2018. And at that time, our organization had some knowledge or some awareness of smart buildings and IoT and digital twin. But when it came to our clients in the commercial industry or healthcare, I would say these technologies or the applications of these technologies were somewhat in their infancy. And so we set out as an organization to learn about how these technologies could benefit our clients and maybe H.H. Angus as well. Now, through the aptly named Smart Buildings Committee, which we formed, it started us on a journey of exploration and experimentation. And this journey was very interesting and very enlightening. This started with us looking at what was actually out there. What were the technologies that were available? What could these technologies do for our clients? And what kind of use cases could they potentially address? And from there, we decided to get our hands dirty, so to speak, and set out to run a pilot project within H.H. Angus. We partnered with a small startup called Argentum Electric, and we still work with them today on a regular basis. Now, for our own pilot project, we wanted to start simple, and we looked at how we could collect data, in this case, presence data, and aggregate data from other IoT devices or other data sources within our own organization. One thing led to another. We had some sensors installed into our office. We applied for a grant through the Ontario Centre of Innovation to do some 5G research. And then we got some sensors into a healthcare organization through that grant that we work with very closely, and so on and so forth. And it just kind of went from there. Today, we're looking at creating custom digital twins on the Forge platform for commercial clients, gathering presence data or creating with some of our healthcare clients, and also looking at creating common data environments or aggregating data on behalf of some other folks on cloud infrastructure that we have learned to deploy on our own. And it's really kind of hard to imagine that we would end up here in 2018, but it all started with a bit of experimentation. Now, I will say that a lot of the factors that have changed over the last 2 years in our world are certainly factors that contributed to some of the opportunities that came up to allow us to test these new technologies. And a lot has changed in the way that we work as a result. Now, I am not going to be the first or last to say this, but COVID and remote work, these things have fundamentally changed our lives, our working lives and our personal lives. But there are also other factors around, climate change, as well as environmental and social governance, or ESG, that have become a priority for a lot of organizations. Reducing their energy usage, their GHG footprint, the safety and wellness of their employees or their building occupants have become priorities. But also priorities is being more socially conscious about the impact of their organizations, perhaps looking at their supply chains or who they choose to work with, and ultimately being more deliberate about how they go about doing their work. I also think it's important to recognize the fact that our people demographics are changing. There is certainly a generational shift occurring, and that is having a large impact on how folks want to work, how folks want to be interacting with their workplaces, but also how organizations such as ourselves, consulting engineers or contractors or integrators, must think about ESG, as the folks that we are hiring care about the impact that they can have on the world. We see all of the young folks coming into our organizations having a drive to contribute to bettering the world, wanting to contribute to energy efficient or low carbon designs, to contribute to projects that consider social governance and social responsibility. And so a lot of things are changing very quickly, and we as an industry have to keep up with those changes. The engineering industry has also changed a lot as well and continues to change. At least from our perspective, I think one of the big things is there's a certain level of commoditization that's happening with our traditional work. We see this at H.H. Angus. And we continue to look for work that is high margin, that values our expertise, our knowledge, which is the thing that makes us valuable. We also see a lot of consolidation in the industry, and this has been happening for quite a while. And with these larger consolidated companies, you see a shift towards providing different kinds of services, not just knowledge-based services, but products. For instance, moving into software as a service or SaaS. And we see this all over the place with various organizations. And these organizations benefit from their size in terms of being able to invest and develop in these things that keep them sticky with their clients, creating something that allows for a continued relationship with their clients, which I think is really quite important. Often as engineers, we design and we help build something, and then maybe we help commission something, but then we step away from that building and it starts to operate and continues to operate. And maybe we come back in a few years or 10 years or 20 years, but we come back to something that we don't recognize, something that has changed from what it was intended to be. It's because we didn't have that relationship. And I think the one big thing that affects us all in construction is digital delivery of our designs and the construction and the facility management. And this is all very much part of the future of smart buildings, because that is where the digitization of the asset can start. That is where we can get so much asset data or graphical information or spatial information that will create the smart buildings or the digital twins of the future. So what is the opportunity here? Because there is opportunity for us in this industry right now. There's always opportunity and change. And right now I feel like everyone is focused on the people problem. Everybody that I talk to, it's the same thing. We are focused on the people, getting the people back into the office, making people comfortable with their workplaces, providing a safe workplace, providing the people the things that they desire in their work lives to make their lives easier, and making our companies more attractive to work for, and optimizing the work environment. And there are a lot of IoT solutions or smart building solutions or software solutions that are starting to or trying to address the people problem. And once this is sorted out, and I do believe that things will sort out in the next few years, we will once again shift to thinking about infrastructure if we're not already thinking about the infrastructure, because these things are inextricably linked. The folks exist in the infrastructure, and the infrastructure is built for the people. And we need to get more out of these buildings that we ever have in the past, both for the people and for the environmental and energy target deadlines that we're quickly approaching. And smart buildings are a big part of that solution for both. And note that I say it is not the solution, but it is a part of the solution. However, they are presenting, and I mean smart buildings, are presenting a lot of challenges for building owners, property managers, and building operators. This is a new space for a lot of them, as it is for us as well. And there are a bunch of people knocking down their doors, trying to sell something that solves some problem. There are a lot of technologies out there that claim to solve problems. But what is it that we do as engineers? We solve those problems for our clients. They come to us to solve the technical challenges that they don't know how to solve. And here lies the opportunity for us. But I think it's going to take a shift in mindset in terms of how we solve those problems. I would say that up until very recently, we have solved the engineering problems that we have much the same way that we have for a very long time. And maybe the way that we convey that data or convey those designs has changed through paper, AutoCAD, through BIM. But for those that are familiar, if we're doing a BIM model or a building information model, we're still printing a PDF drawing. And fundamentally, I think a lot of us still size ducts on a paper wheel. We still size pipes on a plastic wheel. We still draw lines on psychrometric charts. And again, if you haven't figured out I'm a mechanical engineer, yes, I mean, this is my world. But there is a better way, and we have to move into the future. We have to leverage the tools that we have in a better way and to provide a better product and maybe even provide a different product. And so what is the specific opportunity for us here? And I think it's to clear through the noise that's in the current industry, in the smart buildings industry, because I think it is so highly fractured right now. There are so many different verticals in the space. And I feel like for a lot of property owners and managers and tenants, it's really difficult to sort through that noise. There's a lot of products out there that do very similar things that promise very similar outcomes. And it's our opportunity to continue to be that trusted partner for our clients, just in a different way. And I think what's more important, and this follows my previous point, is that we have to focus on the technical challenges and the technical problems and not necessarily the technology. I think about the analogy for our design tools, such as Revit. It will not solve the coordination issues that we have on projects, but it is the best tool we have to solve the coordination issues that we have on our projects. But we, as the designers, have to still solve those problems. We have to figure out how to use the tool to solve those problems. And similarly, when addressing the smart buildings challenges for our clients, we must focus on the challenge. What is driving the organization? What are their business drivers? And then seek out the technology that can help them solve that. It's not technology first, it's people first, and it's challenges first. And I think the other element we have to consider is the implementation of this technology. I think for a lot of our commercial, institutional, or any organization that we work with, it's really difficult to think about the new infrastructure in their existing assets. But I don't think it's necessary to fixate on the permanence of this new technology. It's easy to plan infrastructure in a new building, but for existing buildings, this can be a real challenge. The thought of the cost to provide new cabling, new wiring, new IT networks can be daunting when entering the space. And that's not to say that we shouldn't consider a future roadmap for our clients in supporting these new technologies. But there are ways to look at non-permanent smart building solutions or IoT devices or networks to gather data and solve specific use cases, and then use that technology in the organization elsewhere, move it around, solve more challenges. Because most importantly right now, we have to show how this technology can derive value for the organization and how it can help them understand the people that interact with their workplace and the environment they're in, or how it can help them understand how their building operates so that they can make them more efficient to save money, have a better impact on the environment. And I think we often also get stuck on the idea of getting new hardware, the shiny new thing, and getting new data. But maybe there are existing data sources that we can use to help make their buildings smart. A smart building, I think, is not necessarily one that's full of new technology. It's one that helps the people operating it and the folks working in it make better decisions. This is the key. And we have new tools at our disposal to do just that. And finally, ultimately, I think it comes down to educating the end user and focusing on the whole process. This comes back to the concept of digital delivery, right from the inception of the BIM and design to the build, to facility management, to the smart building, and then to the digital twin. There's so many moving parts to this, and it is a process that everyone plays a part in, particularly the building owner or the asset manager. And they have to know what they want to help drive their business better, how to get the data they want for whatever reasons that they want. And our place in that is to be that partner, that advisor help them educate, or to help educate them, help them understand what it is that the technology can facilitate, what it is that they need to get out of the process to get what they want out of their buildings for the next 30 or 40 or 50 years. Now, I think the future is very bright for the consulting engineer. And I say that because, me being a consulting engineer, but, there is so much opportunity in the industry right now. It's just a matter of finding the new challenges to solve and new ways to solve those challenges for our clients. And we can really benefit from the youth that is coming into the industry. There's a lot of desire to help better the world, and we can help channel that and focus that and give the folks the opportunity to do that. Now is the time more than ever, I think, for organizations to give people the space to try different things. All of the success that we've had at HH Angus in smart buildings and IoT technology is because we've been given the latitude to try something new, to try something different. And it's certainly an investment. There's always a cost to do something new. But we have really learned so much and given some young folks some real opportunity to do something different. And they feel engaged and they feel like they're contributing to something real. And we can really benefit from that youthful enthusiasm. So, that about wraps up my comments here. And, I really want to thank everyone for giving me a chance to speak today. And Peter, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Yes, well, do stay on. We do have some questions. So first question, you mentioned going back to 2018, the relationship you have with clients about smart buildings. Do you find right now that they are asking you about these technologies to put into their buildings, and or are you also going to them, to existing clients, with now this value add?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that when it comes to, like I said, when it comes to a lot of our clients, there's, I think, a bit of a disconnect in terms of their understanding of, let's say, the type of work that we can do. Maybe that's a good place to start, because they have a lot of vendors for these technologies, coming and talking to them and looking at installing them. And we often find that, with some of our clients, we weren't necessarily included in the process, right? Because they don't see this as necessarily an engineering problem. They don't procure it the same way as they do an engineering design. And I think, again, that's a big part of us, is to educate our clients that we are in fact in this space and that we can help them, and that it is part of a larger system, in terms of how they operate that building. And of course, yes, we are also going to our clients and kind of showcasing a lot of the things that we're doing to kind of open their eyes in terms of, maybe we can do something different for them or solve different kinds of problems. I think, for instance, with our ICAT group, or Angus Connect, we provide a different sort of service in terms of digital strategy and road mapping, which often a lot of our existing longstanding clients are very surprised at, because it is a bit of a departure from what we traditionally do. So hopefully that answers your question.
Have you had the chance with any of these projects to really get in at the ideal stage to ensure that the building has sort of the infrastructure in it to be as future proof as possible?
I mean, there are certain projects that we are involved in that is the case, yes, but that really comes from the owner, the education of the owner. I think that when it comes to things like ICAT in healthcare, it is something that is considered in the early planning stages much more than it has in the past, because I think for exactly that reason, when it's considered down the road, the cost of the infrastructure is so much more than what they were expecting. I think similarly, oh, sorry, go ahead, Peter.
No, you finish your thought.
And I think similarly for a lot of clients that are future thinking, it is a major consideration in the procurement, thinking about all the things that when it relates to existing or legacy building systems like your BAS or lighting control, making sure that even those systems have the things that they need to interact or be able to integrate, with the overall kind of approach to a smart building. And I think, there is a lot of considerations of having master systems integrators involved at an earlier stage to take a look at that, for sure.
And some of our audience may today be not so much engineers, but integrators, contractors, et cetera. What would you say are the key difference between the term smart building and prop tech?
Well, I think that's an interesting
question. Or they basically overlap?
It's, I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying, is that a smart building is more of to me, it's more of a concept, right? You think about something like a single pane of glass. A lot of folks are talking about a single pane of glass, but what is that single pane of glass showing you, right? I mean, ultimately, a smart building is one that allows the operators to make better decisions about how they operate the building. It comes down to that decision-making capability, maybe providing recommendations. Again, there's so many ways that I could go about this question, but when it comes to like an existing building, for instance, the first step to a smart building, I think, is like retro commissioning, right? It has nothing to do with a single pane of glass technology, or extracting data into like a cloud environment, or some kind of AI driven fault detection thing, right? It's going back and checking that your building is operating the way it was intended to be building, and then building on top of that. So I think a smart building is the result of a long process and a lot of integrations, and prop tech is a specific technology that could be part of that ecosystem, right?
Got it. Now, this brings us, I think, to the idea of smart buildings sort of being measurable. Benchmarking programs, the Building Intelligence Quotient, Spire, Smart Score. These are ways to kind of, create some sort of goal, I suppose, for the building owner. What of those programs do you use any of those programs? Is that kind of part of the pitch?
I mean, honestly, for us, the one thing that we're looking into obviously is the wired score or the smart score. Those are things that we're very interested in. But I will admit, for us, at this point, that's not something that we have really incorporated into our workflows yet. And it's something that, but it is something that we are looking at, in depth, in terms of how we can, partner with those types of organizations to bring that to our clients, for sure.
Do you have concerns about software security issues, and also proprietary nature of software versus open software?
I mean, security is a huge thing. I mean, when it comes to some of the stuff that we've done, security is a primary thing, because we don't want to be that entry point, right? That creates a vulnerability for our clients. So that is certainly something that is really important. I think if you ask the developers on my team what they think, open is always better, right? And closed is often restrictive. And I think open is a requirement for at least the industry right now, because there are so many, like I said, there are so many different verticals providing so many different products and services and whatnot. It's you can't consider a closed proprietary product when it comes to I think the systems integration, because I kind of think it comes back to who gets to own the data, right? I think the organization should be in control of their own data and that data environment, and maybe they can control that and create a marketplace for their data, so folks can provide solutions for them. But I think that is something that hasn't really been sorted out yet, in my opinion.
All right, I think we may revisit some of those themes in our panel discussion. Thank you so much, Akira, for that presentation.